make fun shit. Hopefully people dig it. If they don't, they move on, and you learn the lesson, make some other shit.
Lounging, son.
Anyways, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and with me today I have writer Geoffrey Thorne. I'm kind of new to your work, relatively new to your work, but what I've read so far, I'm loving. I read Mosaic with Kari Randolph. Kari Randolph's in my top 5 favorite artists right now.
He's a beast. I love Kari.
Absolutely amazing. I love that book. I'm a huge basketball fan, so I love that aspect of it. So I picked that up after I read your Green Lantern stuff with Future State, which I loved, by the way.
Thank
you.
You
know, I'm very excited for your run. Very excited your Infinite Frontier story. We'll get into all this stuff, but before we start talking all the comic books, I do want you to, if you could briefly just share a little bit about yourself for people that aren't as familiar with your work, kind of a little bit of a background stuff.
Yeah, all right. For 15 years, I was an actor. I was a professional actor. Did pretty well at it, and then I quit. Kind of cold turkey. I realized it just wasn't for me. I wanted to go be a writer, which is sort of what I'd been the whole time, but that's a whole other show. I started writing early 2000. Sold my first short story in 2003, I think, and just started trying to do it at that point. Short stories, novels here and there, did some Star Trek stuff, leveraged that to break into writing. I wanted to write movies, but I couldn't get anywhere with that. A very long, weird story where I was able to break into writing live action with Law and Order Criminal Intent, and sort of rolled out of that. Got fired off that job, by the way, so let's not act like it was like an Olympic win. And rolled out of that into Leverage, wrote that for 3 years, ended up being a producer on that. In between those things, luckily for me, I worked in comics on indie comics. My best friend and I decided we wanted to make some comics. Neither of us could afford to hire anyone, so we just did everything. I taught myself how to letter. I helped him with the flatting of the colors, like everything.
That's awesome.
We did, just the two of us, and kind of like what you're going through right now. After work, basically up till 3 months, made a 4-issue comic. Took the ass can to San Diego Con, and we thought, we'll take the ass can, which is a completely separate story, but a high quality ass can. It was basically a black and white comic book that we had done ourselves. We took it to San Diego, and we're like, oh, they'll put us on as an artist writer team. We'll just take it over to DC and Marvel, and they'll just assign us. Like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what the character is. Not realizing, of course, that they don't do that. So, but we showed the ash can around, and we made deals on the floor. People were like, we want to publish this book. And we were like, okay, like, fine. And we ended up doing that. And that book caused Dwayne McDuffie, who was running Ben 10 at the time, to kind of call me out and say, hey, have you ever thought about writing animation? And I said, yeah, I thought about it, but you guys kept rejecting my Justice League pitches. So I gave up thinking about it. So no, I don't think. He's like, la, 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 la. I want to hear some stuff from you in the next couple of weeks. So I pitched them some stuff for Ben 10. They bought it. I wrote it. So I started a sort of side other career as an animation writer. And then one of my good friends is Jerry Duggan, who he's a big Marvel writer. But when I knew him, when we met, he was working the counter at my LCS. And I was just a customer, and we just kind of hit it off. And periodically, he would be like, hey, I met this dude who's looking for people at Disney. I know you draw and write, and they were looking for guys who draw and write. You want to give them a call? And I was like, give me the number. Why are you asking me? What do you mean? Do I want to call him? I'm broke. Let's go. Right. And so at some point, I guess they do these Marvel summits. I'm not really connected to all that. But this was prior to Ta-Nehisi Coates taking over the Black Panther, which is sort of part of this story. they said, look, they feel like they need to open the doors up a bit out here. I know you like comics. I know you're off in your little writing career now. Would you be interested in talking to somebody at Marvel about something, like anything, like at that point? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any pitches. I don't have anything specific to talk to anybody about. And they're like, no, I just want to feel you out, see what kind of dude you are, blah, blah, blah. You know, I already told them, you know, like you've done some indie work, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's the selling point? I'm literally producing a TV show.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, yeah, they don't care about that. Long story. I ended up talking to Axel Alonso. They said, okay, we would like you to pitch for the Black Panther. Turns out a bunch of us were pitching. David Walker was one, a couple other folks. Ta-Nehisi Coates beat our asses. He came in with his Pulitzer and just beat the crap out of us. But I guess Axel liked the way I was pitching stuff. So he said, look, man, this was so casual. I was freaking out because I'm not used to it being like that. It's usually through agencies and, you know, very official and, you know, just different. This is all very casual. And he was like, look, I like the stories you were telling. It's not the direction we want to go. Would you like to do something else? And I was like, I mean, what have you got? I don't know. Like, this is a very weird conversation to be having, Mr. Axel Alonso. So he says, well, before we even get started, you can't do anything with the X-Men. That's out. Everybody wants the X-Men. You're not getting the X-Men. And I was like, oh, okay. And he says, you're not going to get anything with Spider-Man because this is happening. And I'm like, okay. So then he's like, and don't even think about the Avengers because those movies got everything sewed up, all the top tier talent. And I'm like, okay. So what about, and he's like, don't even mention the Fantastic Four. We don't own the Fantastic Four. As far as you're concerned, we don't own the Fantastic Four. And I was like, what are we even talking about? Like, what are we, what's left? Like, Dr. Druid? Like, I don't know what am I supposed to be pitching here? And he's like, well, I mean, there's a lot of other characters. And really, like, especially if it's going to be a mini or something, there's no reason you couldn't just literally choose, like, the Black Knight or somebody like that. And I was like, oh. And he says, or anything else. And I was like, what do you mean when you say anything else? He's like, would you have an original character, an original pitch? And I was like, funny you should mention that. I have thousands. You know, what are you looking for? And he's like, nothing. Tell me some stories. So I did. And he sparked on, like, I told him a bunch of stories, like a crazy bunch of stories. And he's like, what's that one? And I was like, oh, the body horror one? It doesn't really have a title yet. He's like, yeah, I like that one. That was very kind of Vertigo comics-ish. I was like, I know, right? Is that something you guys really do? He's like, we're doing it now because I like that one. And I was like, oh, okay, shit, let's go. And that became Mosaic. It started out way darker than it ended up on the in the actual comic you read. It was a body horror, very Vertigo. I've told a couple of people in interviews this before, but he started out where he wasn't even going to look like a human. He wasn't going to even know how to make himself look like a human again for like till issue 5. Like, this was going to be a long, drawn out, very horrifying for him experience. He was going to look like some kind of energy monster for like the first. Every time he took over body should be terrifying to the person he was taking over. And obviously that's not what we got. That comes into, what does the company want? How is this going to play out? They're the ones who like, can he be an Inhuman? And I was like, yeah, I like the Inhumans. Who doesn't love the Inhumans? Turns out a lot of freaking people hated the Inhumans at that time, right? Yeah. And I was like, so I found out about that crazy controversy. I was like, really? This is the fight? You guys are mad because Marvel doesn't really own the X-Men, so they're trying to do something with they don't want to promote the X-Men while Fox is making these movies because they're going to give them free stuff to make movies out of, and then they won't ever get the X-Men back, but you're mad because they're also trying to, I don't care. I just want to do my little stories. Like, that's some dumb shit to be mad about, frankly. Yeah. And it was open warfare. Like, it was like doxing and threatening people with violence. And I'm like, it's the Inhumans and the X-Men. What are you talking about? You're not even Bloods and Crips. You don't even have streets to fight over. Why are you doing this? Right? So whatever, right? So I invented Mosaic, but I saw that they were doing this sort of run up to the X versus the Inhumans thing. And I was like, well, I don't want to be part of that. I don't really like being I don't want to be part of a giant crossover thing because that's my guy's going to get lost in that shuffle. I don't want to mess with that. So I purposely gave him a personality, as you read, where he's like, I don't give a shit about you guys. I'm doing my thing. Like, I don't know you. Why am I smacking this dude? I don't know him. What? You know, he's that guy. And he's a selfish dick anyway at the beginning.
He's kind of like, I mean, I love Kobe Bryant, all right? He's my favorite basketball player. But he's like Kobe in his prime. He was Kobe when Kobe didn't want to pass the ball. You know what I mean? So,
well, let me tell you, I don't know sports. I'm not a basketball fan. I don't follow. People are like, oh, he's like Kobe. Oh, he's like LeBron. I'm like, okay, great. No, I chose him because of the celebrity aspect. Because I've been an actor before, I didn't want anyone to think I was like lifting things out of my own life to put into this thing. Right. But I needed the guy to be a celebrity. So I thought, what kind of sport can he play that's regular? It can't be the Olympics because that's only every 4 years, a big deal. In a day-to-day of American life, people don't follow your Olympian. Yeah. You may have a favorite Olympian, but right now, where there's no Olympics, you don't care.
Exactly.
So, right. And football is more of a different kind of team sport. It's really mostly quarterback focused, and occasionally the other players will get some shine, but it's more like team plus quarterback. But basketball, anybody can be the star on a basketball team. Like any particular player can just be the shining light on a given team. So I was like, all right, basketball seems like a good thing. And athlete personalities are pretty aggressive usually, one way or another. They have to be. So it seems great. And he's going to be in this fishbowl, lights always on him, dating a hot girl, like who's also a star. Because it just seemed like a fun world to rip him out of.
Yeah, it was.
Right. And the idea that you live your life where everybody's looking at you and wants your opinion and you can't pay for anything, even though you're rich, because no one want to let you pay. Just come to my restaurant and eat for free. Like that kind of life. And then to instantly be invisible and no one can hear you. And the only way you can interact with people is you have to get inside them, literally. Something you never cared about. You didn't care about the insides of anybody. It was always, what can you do for me? Nothing. Don't care. Go away. Mm-hmm. Like he was that guy. So that was what the book was kind of about. And, but it came out in the middle of this whole, like, so much silly controversy in comic book fandom. Right wingers versus left wingers.
Yeah.
Comicsgate versus SJWs. Plus the basic of X-Men versus the freaking Inhumans. All of this stuff happened at exactly the same time. So you get a black lead guy, you find out the writer's black. Marvel, I don't think, marketed it properly because they kept saying, oh, here's this new superhero coming. And I was like, he's a dick. We don't know if he's going to be a superhero. He might have ended that first arc as a villain just as easily. Like, I didn't know. I truly did not know. That was part of the fun of the book. But while that's going on, so anyway, we can go off on Mosaic some other time. At the same time, Deadpool's blowing up in the movies. So Jerry hits me up and he's like, look, I'm doing Deadpool, doing all this Deadpool and the Mercs for Money stuff over here. And I guess Marvel wanted to capitalize on that. So they had all these other mercs, all these mercenaries that were sort of teamed up with Deadpool at the time.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're going to spin all these guys off into their own books and see which ones stick. You want to do solo? And I was like, so? Like, what, you really? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm not joking, for real. We're going to do solo. You're going to come write it with me. And I was like, I mean, he said, if you want to. And I was like, you're serious. You want to do a comic book that's just about Solo? Really? He's like, do you want to do this or not? Stop mocking it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, who's the audience? He's like, that's not your concern. Do you want to write this with me or not? And I was like, we've never written together. Let's go have some fun. And Marvel was basically like, yeah, go have some fun. It doesn't have to match up to any previous characterization. You can add or take things away. Do whatever you want, right? And so we did that. Obviously, as predicted, no one bought that book. Well, they just didn't buy it. Like, it wasn't like it was good or bad. I was like, I collect comic books. If you tell me, here comes this Solo book, I don't care who's writing it. I don't care who's drawing it. I mean, well, I do care who's drawing it. Like, if Chris Bottilo's drawn it, I'd probably buy it. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain characters, it's like, yeah, but why? You know? And,
I get it, yeah.
Yeah, so even if you're writing it, like, all right, we're going to have a great time. But I knew no one was buying this book. So no one bought the book. But working with Jerry was really fun. About a third of the way through the first issue, he's like, yeah, I got a lot on my plate. Could you just carry the weight for the rest? Can we just write the book yourself? And I was like, like a bait and switch to me, right? And he's like, no. But, and this, I tell people this whenever I have the opportunity, he did something I've never seen anyone else do, which is he hit Marvel up. We were on a contract where we were splitting 50-50, right, on the writing pay of this. He's like, look, I'm not really writing the book anymore. Jeff's writing it. So I'm going to go through and like, if I feel like there's jokes that needed to be added in or something, because we have different kind of sense of humor, I'll do that. I'll do a joke pass basically, but I'm not really writing anything. So why don't you give Jeff 70%, 75% of the cut? I'll just take 25. And I was like, nobody asked you to do that, man. And he's like, I know, but it's fair. Right. And I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, right. Like I've been working my whole life. I've never seen anyone sacrifice money for anything, like much less just to be decent. So, because I was fine with it. Like, I was like, that was the contract, whatever. I'm cool with doing this because it's fun. You know, he's like, nope, it's unfair. This is how we're going to do it. And I was like, right. So wrote that, had a good time with it. Obviously Mosaic went away. Obviously nobody bought Solo. So I thought I was done at Marvel. Like no hard feelings. Everybody did their best. Things happen, whatever. And I got to write some Marvel comics. So I'm happy. Right. And Mosaic, they did the 2 trades. They're still out there. If enough people buy them, I'll still get a little check. Like Kari's a beast of an artist. The other fill-in guys are also really good. So what's not to love, right? All my life I wanted to write Marvel comics. I got to, done. So, and I thought that offices were done with me just because the way Hollywood works, they would have been freaking done with me. Like, okay, we're done. But the Spider-Man office of Mosaic technically fell under the Spider-Man office because he possessed Spider-Man.
Okay.
Oh, right. So they called me up and they were like, would you like to do a one-shot here? Would you like to do this other one-shot? I was like, sure, whatever. It seems like fun. So I did a little bit of stuff in the Spider-Geddon thing and a little thing for Marvel Voices and stuff. It was all very casual, very fun. But once you're sort of in the circle, your name will pop up from time to time. And they'll either say he's right or he's wrong and make a call. Like I was pitching, but not getting any responses. So I figured they were done. I pitched them a bunch of shit. And I didn't even get back a no. It was just crickets. I was like, oh, I guess that's the no, right? You know, truthfully, they're probably just super busy and it's low profile, you know, low priority or whatever, and they just forgot about it. But so anyway, so that went away. And then weirdly, the same kind of thing happened. I'm off doing my regular life, and a guy I knew in animation said, this is like right before, I guess 5G was sort of in the process at DC. Again, something I wasn't paying attention to. A friend of mine in animation said, hey, I was at a meeting. Dan DiDio's doing this sort of weird outreach and asked us for suggestions of people we thought might be good to come in and pitch some stories for DC Comics. I know you're busy. Everyone starts with, I don't know why they think I'm so busy. Everyone always thinks I'm so busy. Like, I know you're busy, but, right? And I'm like, what? And they're like, would you mind if I mention you to him for that? And I was like, oh, you should already mention me. Why are you checking? Why is everyone always checking? Right? Just mention me. Right? So he did. I got to talk. Oh, by the way, about 2.5 weeks after I met with Axel, fired. About 3 weeks after I met with Dan, fired. So not my fault. I'm just saying I happened to be there. I was just a bystander. I did not do anything.
That's crazy that happened to fall in line that way.
So crazy. So 5G is going on. I don't know anything about that. I didn't read the fan press or anything like that. I didn't know that there was controversy about it and all these negative expectations.
I mean, your name was dropped almost immediately in one of the rumors for 5G too, which is crazy. Like, I think Bleeding Cool mostly had the rumors. I don't know if you're from. I know, but they tend to get stuff right a lot of the time in terms of the creators, not always in terms.
I don't know who their
like,
sources are.
I don't either, but not in terms necessarily of the books that are going to come out. But if I see something on Bleeding Cool, I'm like, fuck, I gotta keep an eye out on it.
You gotta run it down, right? You gotta like see if it's I mean, look, it's a clickbait site. So sometimes they're straight up and sometimes they're full of shit. And it's your job to figure out which is which. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually easy. If Jude Terror wrote it, you know it's bullshit. So, and I'll be on fucking record for saying that shit. That dude fucking puts the most clickbaity articles on that site, and I just I cringe when I see them. So,
well, here's what it is. I always say this is rumor control. Here are the facts. So, so it was a very nice conversation, but I didn't really have anything full on. So I talked and I was really busy because we were shooting a show at that time. So I kept thinking this isn't going to work because he kept wanting to have in-person meetings. DC had moved to LA, right? So it wasn't going to be phone meetings, right? We want you to come in. And there was going to be a bunch of people. It wasn't just me. They weren't like looking for me. There was a bunch of people on their list. And I was like, I can't come in, man. I'm like literally making a TV show. I can't do it. And they're like, all right. So I thought it went away. And then I guess at the last of whatever that period of time was where they were looking for new folks, they're like, look, we got a slot open Wednesday of next week. Do you have time to come in? Right. And I was like, turns out I actually do after lunch that day for no reason at all. I just do. So I went in and I pitched, I got to see the whole 5G project, which I was like, holy shit, like this is some wildness. And I was happy with it. As a fan, I was like, my only problem with what they were planning to do with 5G was that I thought the rollout was going to be too fast. I thought the whiplash of what they planned to do to the line, like they wanted to do it all, at least my understanding was, they want to do it all like basically this month it's this, next month 5G, and that's it. Too bad for y'all. Like they weren't aggressive. I mean, they weren't aggressive like I just said it, but they're like, this will be great. And I was like, will it though? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the actual changes, I was like, this is dope. I've talked about this so much in different places, so I don't want to say the same things over and over again, but you just can't imagine the level of detail they went into with reshaping all this stuff. It wasn't like, there are different versions of rebooting the DC universe that I had hated, like where I was like, okay, I'm out for a while. I can't read it right now, right? This is some craziness, whatever. This was, and he said, we brought in people from all departments, basically anyone who crossed my line of sight. I was like, what do you think? And so many different people like, well, you could do this with Hawkman. What about this for so-and-so, right? And I was like, what are you even thinking about this character? No one's even talking about that character. Well, we needed to know because this connects it. I was like, oh my God, right? All of it would have been great if they'd rolled it out over maybe a 2-year period. Nobody would have blinked. All of the changes would have been like, yes, finally, yeah, finally, yeah, finally. Literally across the board. There was some really interesting, innovative stuff there. But I was like, if you're talking about December, it's one way, and then in January, it's just this, like it's always been like this, that's going to be a head snap for a lot of people. Like a lot of people are going to make a lot of fuss about this. It might work. The risk might work. But I don't know if I'm your boss that I'm willing to take that risk. I just don't know, right? Clearly they were not.
Yeah.
So I pitched him a bunch of stuff. He says, no. Oh, what's that Jon Stewart thing? And I was like, well, it's this. And he's like, okay, so we're talking about what, like a miniseries? And I was like, well, yeah, theoretically it'd be, remember how Birds of Prey used to be a miniseries? People forget this. It started out as a miniseries,
right?
And it was another miniseries, and it was another miniseries, and then people were like, damn, we need its own book. That's what I wanted to do. It's like, let's just do something small. Don't tax the audience, right? Let's see if they like this flavor. If they don't, we get a little trade out of it. Everybody walks away happy. If they love it, we come back with another miniseries to expand it, right? And he's like, yeah, cool. We'll go write that up. So I go write it up, send it. DC buys it. He gets fired. Like basically within that month, all these things happen. And then, and so I'm like, based on like what I said about how Hollywood works, whoever comes in who's the new person is going to shoot everything he made in the face. Because the way the rule really seems to work is, let's say you were the president and you had all these great ideas and the company was behind you until they weren't. And then you're fired. And they bring in Jeff. Hey, Jeff, come in and run the company. We think you're great. And I've got all these past-created things in front of me. Some of them are dope, right?
Yeah.
But if I complete them, I get zero credit if they win. That's all going to go to you because you're the one who started them. But if they fail, I take the hit because it happened on my watch. So the best thing to do is clear the decks, start over, right? Do my stuff. At least if it fails, it's mine, right? So that's what I expected. And DC dropped off the map for me for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then I get an email like, hey, so we're sort of compiling notes and whatever. This Jon Stewart thing, you still want to do that? And I'm like, do you still want to do it? Like, yeah, I thought you guys were done. And they're like, yeah, we want to do it. And I was like, okay, so the same thing. And like, well, same is an interesting thing because there's a bunch of stuff that was going to happen in 5G that you had to tie your little story into. A bunch of that stuff's gone. So we're going to have to talk about how we integrate this new thing into all this other stuff. And I can't say what all the details were because that's protected, like legally protected. But there was no discussion of me writing the Green Lantern book at that time. I was going to be one of the people doing stuff with the Green Lanterns. Right? There was a bunch of people, not a bunch, but a few people that were going to be doing stuff with the Green Lantern. And so we're developing. The DC editorial liked a lot of the stuff I had to say about other cosmic aspects of the DC universe. They're like, oh, that's great. Well, that's cool. Like, whatever. And I was like, okay, this is just what happens in any old comic book shop. Like, it's the 10 of us sitting around talking about, wouldn't it be great if Dr. Fate worked like this? Like, it's literally that, right? So, like, no, but that's dope. We're going to do that. So, so I'm writing away on this sort of Jon Stewart arc, factoring in some of the things that they said. And meanwhile, I'm guessing at the editorial level, the executive level, they're refining down, making decisions about how they're going to put the books out. Like at that time, it was a normal line. Now we've got these weird, like oversized anthology type books, right? With a slightly higher cover price point. That was not in effect when I started. None of that was, like, at least as far as I know, nobody was telling me any of that stuff. So I thought I was just going to be writing again, this sort of arc featuring Don. At some point they come to me and they're like, how would you like to do the Green Lantern book? And I was like, I'm doing a John. No. The book. And I was like, what? Like, I mean, please be more specific. Like, what do you want? What do you mean by that? And they're like, well, we like the Jon Stewart thing because I've been sending them stuff, right? Like as it's being developed, like we really like this. We want to make this the centerpiece. And I was like, okay, is it that big of a story though? And they're like, well, that's what we need to talk about. And I was like, all right. So we had a lot of meetings about how we could expand it out, how we could fold it into this larger thing that they wanted to do. The whole thing with the battery blowing up, that came from them. They wanted me to add in Joe from Far Sector and do something, whatever I wanted with the Teen Lantern, you know.
And you're talking about the ongoing right now in terms of those characters?
Right.
Okay, cool.
Future State does not exist yet. There's still no Future State yet. Like, you'll hear me say this over and over, and I'd be, what? Like, that's my response to DC editorial a lot.
Well, it sounds like a clusterfuck, but
I mean, it didn't feel like that. I feel like they tell you what you need to know when you need to know it.
Okay.
So I don't know whatever was going on over there. I know that during this time, a bunch of people got fired, which obviously hit the people who work there hard, but I don't know any of them. So I was like, that sucks. Are you guys okay? Like that kind of conversation. But I didn't know any of the former editors. I didn't know any of the other players. I'm just like this dude working at DC freelance kind of, right?
Right.
So they seemed fine with it. And I think it, you know, some people got promoted and stuff, so they had to like get up to speed and things like that. That might have caused some delays, but I'm off writing. So I'm not really thinking about it in those terms. So they hit me with this and I'm like, none of the changes that they wanted to do, this is the same thing that happened the first time. The stuff that I had to do that would have gone into 5G, those changes being removed, well, they were changes. So I didn't care. It didn't hurt my story one way or the other. The same thing with this. They're like, can we add these things? We're going to do these things. And I'm like, yeah, none of that affects my story, if I have to fold in these other characters, okay. So all you're doing is putting a target on more people's backs than what I had planned. like more people will die now. I hope you're happy. And so I'm doing all of that, and I'm gaming this out where they're like, okay, if you're going to be the writer on it, arc takes about a year, a little more, a little less, depending on the arc. Are you down for that? Because we know you have your actual career going. I'm like, I think I can handle this and my other job. I think that's fine. I'm not doing too much. Great. So I'm off writing that. And then they hit me with this future state stuff, and I have no idea what future state is. Like, what is this? It's this new initiative. We're going to do this. We're going to jump forward. We're going to do all this stuff. So what we'd like you to leave off what you're doing right now and like fast forward 14 years, 15 years in this same timeline that you're working on. And I was like, okay, because I had not been caught up on all of the death metal stuff, right? So they're like, oh, it's a spin out of death metal. I'm like, you say that like I know what you're talking about. So I had to go do this deep dive on death metal, which had been going on for 2 years at that point, right? Yeah. So I read all the latest death metal stuff. I know how it's going to end, obviously, before it comes out. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. So what you're going to do is what you guys saw in Future State. We're going to jump forward with all these different characters. How far forward? Because in my timeline, a lot of wacky, in my part of the DCU, a lot of wacky stuff happens. So after this point, it's not really going to resemble a Green Lantern book for a period of time, right? It's going to look crazy over here for a period of time, which is within the story makes perfect sense. But if we jump that far forward, the audience will be like, what the hell? Which a lot of them were anyway. But no, just choose a period. Like, it's up to you. The Future State is more free form than you're thinking about. The individual books don't need to talk to each other, right?
Right.
So just do your thing. And I was like, all right, I want to do this. And I want to do Mad Max in space. And they're like, sold, go crazy, right? And I'm like, okay. And I like Tom Rainey to draw it. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, not in the negative way. They're like, let's see if he's available. Like, okay, And I was like, yeah, cool, Rainey. I didn't think he was going to say yes. He's like, hell yeah, let's go. So I want it to be like heavy metal or 2000 AD.
It did feel that way.
Vibe, right? He's like, yes, let's do that. So I was like, cool. So Tom's on board. We start talking about designs and character arcs and stuff. So like, he's drawing people you've never met, but he had to get the whole backstory about each one of the new characters. So he's like, oh, that's who that is. That's why that's happening or whatever. Like, cool. So he's off doing his thing. I'm writing this crazy thing, and then fielding the nonsense that came out of that other website about my feelings about Hal Jordan.
Yeah, I remember that article. I remember that.
Oh boy, that was delightful. So we handed off, and we're like, it was way rougher, the original version of it. There were some things that we got as far as art, like it wasn't just in the script. Things got approved, and then when Tom came in, there's like Gnort's death. Talk about this all the time now. The first version of Gnort's death, there would have been no doubt he had got killed on that page. There would have been absolutely no doubt, because it was a horrible, brutal, bloody murder that happens. So I was like, well, this makes the point. Like, you see who we're fighting against. We've said that they've done all these brutal killings. We see them running around with knives and stuff, but they haven't actually killed anyone that we care about, right? Let's have them rip Norton in half in front of us. And Tom drew the shit out of that page.
Oh man, I'd love to see that.
At some point, well, it exists somewhere. But at some point, someone on the DC side, an upper editorial or possibly in legal, I don't know, came back with, yeah, guys, this is a little rough for the age group we're shooting for. We're like, but you read the script, you saw the art, like, we're about to color this. No, you're not. Tom's got to redraw this.
Oh, fuck.
So that's the book you got. The book itself, the Green Lantern book, takes place now. All that future state stuff is 14 years from now. So yeah, there's some stuff they've announced, like the battery goes down, the lanterns lose their powers. That happens at some point in the run. But the idea that John's going to like, oh, my ring's gone. Now I must shave my hair and wear dreadlocks and have a beard and a sword right now. Like, no, like, that's like the middle or the end of the freaking story after 14 years of watching his friends die in battle. That's the John you got in Future State. It's just John Stewart, regular old John Stewart, having an adventure right now. So one of the fun things about the Infinite Frontier bit was, I think people are getting the wrong idea because of the article. Like, I don't like Hal Jordan. Sorry about it. Not going to start liking him because you guys now know I don't like Hal Jordan. I don't like him. I think he's cardboard. I've said that a million times. I'm not going to ever not think that. It's just not my favorite Lantern. But this story was never meant to be about him. I don't have like a, okay, as soon as I get hired by DC, you know what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fucking kill Hal Jordan. I'm going to eviscerate him. I'm going to throw him. Like, oh my God, I've been waiting since I was a teenager. Oh my God, I can't wait. Can I please just, in fact, can the book just be the slow death of Hal Jordan, right? Page 1, we capture him, and then the whole rest of the book is cutting pieces off of Hal Jordan. So he's finally just dead, and then we swap out the corpse at the last page, right? Come on, give me a break with that. But everybody wanted to yell about it. So I was like, okay, you're going to be surprised when you get to the real book, because I got 2 Green Lanterns taking a Teen Lantern to Oa to have a look at that glove.
That was dope, by the way. That little scene of Teen Lantern upside down hovering, literally getting the history like into her. I talked about it last week. My buddy and I, we did an episode about Infinite Frontier. I was like, that was so dope. That was such a dope scene. And like, I love like Simon's back, you know. Look, I saw the article, you know, about the Hal Jordan thing. The only thing I was like, oh fuck, he hates Hal Jordan. I guess we're gonna get a really good John Stewart book. That's the only thought that I had. I was like, whatever. So he doesn't like him. I prefer Wally West. I did not think Barry should have came back from the dead. I think he should have stayed dead. He was he was boring in the 60s. He was boring in the 70s. And
the best thing he did was die fighting the Anti-Monitor. That was the best thing he ever freaking did.
He served more purpose as like the ghost of Barry Allen for Wally, and how Wally grew into the hero that he became, than what they did when they brought him back. Because guess what? The Barry we got back isn't the Barry from the 60s. It was an amalgamation of different personalities, and that's how we got the Barry that we have now.
That's right. That we wouldn't have had the current Barry if not for Wally.
Exactly.
So why are we getting rid of Wally? Let's just have Wally. We all love Wally, right?
Yeah.
So I'm that guy too. Ike's exactly right. Exactly that. So the book is, can't spoil anything, but some of this will overlap with things that have been said in other interviews, because what's been released is essentially what I'm allowed to talk about.
Okay.
But in the Superman book, John and Clark Kent basically read the riot act to the big powers of the galaxy.
Right. You need United
They're like,
Planets. Right.
You guys are idiots. What the hell's wrong with you? You should be the United Planets. It's stupid. Right. They're like, the Kryptonians are right. Let's do that. So they start their own little like United Nations / United Europe, whatever it is, it's united now, and it's the United Planets, and it's the galaxy wide. So I was like, and these are some of the things that DC's informing me of, because I'm not a big Superman fan. I'm not against Superman. I just don't really care. So I wasn't reading the book. I didn't know this had happened, right? So they're like, oh, this has happened, and this other thing has happened, and we're going to do this thing at the end of the year. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I was like, well, that's going to make a ripple effect, because the Guardians have been basically, they're not the governing body, but they've set themselves up as the policing body for a lot of people for a really long time, like thousands of years. The Guardians have been doing this. So when this entire galaxy says, yeah, we're going to do this though, we're going to do this now. I don't know how that sits with the Guardians. I feel that's worth exploring. Like maybe they have an opinion about that. And maybe some of those species that are now in the United Planets, they're like, so are we going to keep up with these Guardians? Like, wait, you don't like the Guardians? I'm not saying I don't like the Guardians. I'm just asking, do we need to keep up with this Green Lantern nonsense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're going to do it ourselves, what they do is stop us from beating each other up. If we're not going to be doing that anymore, do we need these fools flying around with these rings telling us what we can and can't do? Because personally, I vote no. I vote we don't need that, right? That's the first time you've said anything like that. Like, yeah, well, this is the first time we had the United Planets. So sorry about it. And the Guardians may have an opinion about that. So that's part of the story. That's a big component of what's going to happen in the Green Lantern book. What did that change in the government mean for the Guardians? John's story is very much part of that. God, I wish you had read it.
I mean, we'll do another chat. I don't mind that.
Yeah, let's come back and talk about it.
I do want to. Yeah.
Let's just say we're going to come back and talk about it.
Yeah, we'll come back and how about we talk about midway through the first arc?
Okay. Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Let's say let's come back after issue 4.
Okay. All right. I don't like the way you're smiling right now.
Just like I dropped you guys in Future State, with little or no explanation in Future State. I'm not going to do that in Green Lantern because well, I want the book. Since they made it a #1, because again, a lot of this stuff is decided for me. The story doesn't change, but how it's being given out to the public, that shifts depending on what the company needs. Mm-hmm. So remember, this started out as a bunch of miniseries, and now it's just Green Lantern. I didn't even know they were going to change the renumbering. Like, I was like, wait, it's going to be another #1? Okay. But a #1 is different than, let's say, I don't know what the last real number was, but let's say it was 362. If I'm coming in, new arc starting in 363, that's a different announcement than we're starting again from #1. Right. So this book has to be something that, like, you might be a Green Lantern fan, but your boy's like, I don't know. This is a good jump on point. Okay. Like, you don't need to have known any of that other stuff. We sort of allude to it a little bit, I guess. Like, if you've never read a Green Lantern book before and all you know is just, oh, they're the space cops, you'll be fine with this issue. So there was that. But bringing in Kelly, and I chose to bring in Simon because nobody had been using him at all.
Yeah, he just got
sidelined for no reason. Nothing against him. Like, writers use who they want to use, like I'm doing. But everybody leaned really hard on Jessica. But I was like, well, weren't they a team? Like, wasn't that the whole point, that they had to share one lantern? Apparently not. So I was like, well, that seems unfair to my boy Simon. So he's going to be in the book. I didn't have any particular love for Simon or not love for Simon. I just felt like he should get some kind of treatment that he's not been getting. The same thing with Kelly. She didn't really get defined in Young Justice very much because it's a team book and she never had her own book. And there were conflicting stories about her origin and, what's his name? John Stewart's like, you can't keep that glove. We're going to have to take that off you. She's like, you come and try and take it off and see what happens then. Yeah. Right? Like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it seemed like there was something fun there. And there's been a lot of sort of fan rumbling about, oh, she's going to be another one of these precocious teenage, or not quite teenage girls. And I'm like, well, she's precocious, but she's not Reed Richards, y'all. She's not that chick. I get to define her in a way, which I thought was kind of fun because what had been set up about her was sort of a mishmash of things and a power set. So she's going to get a real personality, and I promise what people seem to think is going to be the move is not the move with her. Same thing with Joe coming in from Far Sector. There's this whole like vibe that I'm going to like, it's going to be Joe and Joe and John, the alpha pair, sort of running around like solving the galaxy's problems. And I'm like, yeah, it ain't that kind of party either. We're not doing that either. She's going to have something very specific to do. And when the battery finally does go down, a lot of Green Lanterns are going to die. Like, a lot of Green Lanterns are going to die. Mostly off screen because we've mostly not seen most of the Green Lantern. I've said this before, if you happen to be in outer space when that battery goes dark, you're dead. Like, if you're not on a ship, you're just flying through space like a Green Lantern, you're flying through space like a block of ice pretty quickly after that. Oh, that's gonna be dope. So that's gonna be a lot of dead lanterns. But what happens to the battery only happens to the Green Lantern. It's not some sort of like all of the different color spectrum people get affected. just the greens get hurt. So power vacuum, some shit's gonna pop off based on that. And how it all gets dealt with, where people are when the effect occurs, how close you are to it when it occurs is different. Like if you happen to be, let's say, at ground zero, the effect of the loss of the battery is going to be different for you than someone who's way out on the edge of space.
Okay.
Right? I've been telling people, don't tell me your favorite lanterns, because right now I've been leaving it up to the artist who's in the picture. And I'm only saying to them, okay, take that person out because I have a plan for them. Right? When I see the roughs come through, I'm like, oh, you can't use that character because this is going to kill everybody in this room. So they can't be in that room. Put somebody else in there. But as the story goes forward, I'm going to be very much more specific. Like, okay, this lantern definitely did not die because, you know, we're going to do something with them. But when we start the story, 5,000 Green Lanterns are on Oa because of, not for any nefarious reason, they're just there. The Guardians asked them to come home for a minute. So there's a bunch of Green Lanterns on Oa.
Shit.
At the beginning of the story. You're going to see a lot of the different races of the galaxy. You're going to see a couple of brand new characters, at least 2 brand new characters in issue 1 that stick. Oh, brand new villains pulled out of the deep Green Lantern lore, but who've never been played this way before. That I was surprised no one had done anything with them. I was like, can this be just be sitting here for me to do this with? Like, oh. So we're going to get a really interesting new villain, and we're going to somewhat reshape the relationship of the Guardians and the Green Lanterns to the galaxy and the universe at large. Okay. And it's not going to be a bunch of people standing around talking about it. Like, there's going to be some standing around talking because it's one of those cosmic speechifying type books, but it's going to be some ring slinging and some stuff blowing up and people's heads getting chopped off and things crashing into other things and planets exploding. It's going to be a Green Lantern.
Yes, I'm very excited. 2 characters I want to ask. 2 characters.
Okay.
Fatality and Kyle Rayner.
You will definitely see Fatality during this arc.
Okay, the first arc. Okay. You
will definitely see Kyle during this arc. I definitely have a sort of plan for Kyle, which will not be the focus of this arc, but if the book does well, and they don't fire me, I will stay on the book.
Indefinitely.
Until I can work out all the little stories that I have that I'm sort of setting up. So Kyle gets his own little story. All the Earth Lanterns are going to get something, but this arc, and probably the most of the next arc are about John, Joe, Kelly, and Simon. So they're going to be the focus. But what happens because of the loss of the battery is going to change a lot of stuff for a lot of people out in the galaxy. You're going to see some faces you haven't seen in a while show up in this book under different circumstances. So you will see Fatality. Mm-hmm. All the Earth Lanterns make some appearance in the first issue and in the second issue. Not maybe to the degree that people are used to. As I said, it's not focused on most of that. It's focused on the 4 people I've said. Mm-hmm. So they won't be as prominent as maybe you might like if you're a big Kyle fan.
I'm not going to say one way or another if I'm a fan because I don't want you to kill anybody. So
well, okay.
So I'll just excuse myself.
Everybody's so mad about that, but you got to think about it. All right, I hate to do this because it's like almost like pulling rank, but you got to think about it from a business point of view. Is DC really going to let me kill Guy Gardner or Kyle Rayner or Jessica Cruz? Like they might let me kill Simon because he's been sitting on the shelf for a minute, but are they going to let me kill Hal Jordan? Really?
I mean, I don't know. I saw what they did to my boy Wally. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm to see them kill another character.
True. That's true.
I mean, Wally West is my favorite character at DC. My first comic book was Flash 82 by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. That was my first. So I've always loved Wally. And so what they did with him, so not only did you do that either. You did it in Heroes in Crisis, and then that horrible Flash Forward series that I'm sorry, like I'll throw shade because I cannot stand that book. It did nothing for me.
To be fair, I'll join you. I checked out of the Flash at Flashpoint. I was like, yep, I'm out. And have not really gone back. So I'm watching the ripples of all of this, what you're talking about. I'm like, I'm glad I checked out because I would be mad like you are. But the truth is, if you look at it, neither Wally nor Barry is dead currently. So.
Right. I agree. I'm just saying. I mean, the only thing that has been redeeming for Flash is what Joshua Williamson has done. He did an amazing run on Flash, and then he gave me, I thanked him personally. I said, dude, thank you for those pages with Wally in Infinite Frontier, because that made the book for me. I can come back too. Yeah, I mean, it just made me smile. It just made me smile after I read that.
I think the difference, though, is that some of that is people will say Barry was first. Really, Jay was first.
I mean, let's be real. It's Jay Garrick.
Right. Yeah. But Barry was first. So we're not really getting rid of Wally. I don't agree with this. It's fucking Wally. It should be Wally. Yeah. But I can see what the argument was. Is like, look, we want to get back to the original, right? We want to have it be Barry. Whoever made that decision. I'm like, yeah, it seems like a silly decision when this guy has been holding it down and he's crushing. And frankly, Barry was boring as hell. Wally is not boring. Wally has a real reason. Like, I'm with him. He like, in that journey, when he takes over, the whole first arc was, how am I going to live up to this man? Like, how am I going to ever fill these boots? And over the course of 3-5 years, he slowly, and we're all with him. Like, we're all on the journey with him. He gets a wife, he gets kids, he gets all of this stuff, but it's not like, okay, just have it. We're going to, he earns every step. So then to come back in and go, okay, he's out. We're going to do this. I was like, no, not with me. You're not. I'm not here. I'm not sticking around for this. But I don't think that DC will feel the same way about the Green Lanterns, because they have Hal can't be touched, frankly, I would say. Whether they plan to make movies with him or put him in a show or whatever, I just think there's been too many years of merchandising, frankly, that have been centered around Hal Jordan. You're not killing Hal. So maybe Guy could go, but I have no reason to kill Guy. Guy's fun. Guy's funny. He's a great flavor. Guy's just... Guy gets, I've got the right guy saying something in issue 2 that I've been waiting for him to say my whole life. Anyway, so like, I just feel like people are worried about the wrong stuff. The lanterns that are going to die are mostly the off-camera lanterns that none of us have ever seen. It's just to be able to say this big number, essentially. Like, this is how big this effect is. This is how widespread this event occurred. What are we going to do about it? You're going to see people that you do care about get negatively affected by it, physically negatively affected by it. But I don't feel like I'm talking out of school when I say it's superhero comics. I'm not murdering your favorite lantern. Who is going to be allowed to murder your favorite lantern? No one. No one. Jessica is in the DC Girls show on Netflix. No one's killing her. I promise you, no one's killing Jessica Cruz. Even if I beg, they're not going to let me. Right? Okay. And I'm not begging for that. The lanterns that do go down, like maybe Nort, if we get to that point,
I mean, you made him badass as fuck.
Again, people,
that was dope.
People got mad, but it's like, you know what it is. I will say this to be fair to the people outside. I'm inside, so I know what's up. I know why things are and how this happened and what the story is and why he ended up being that way. I think that the fans are a little bit gun shy, partly like what you and I are talking about with the Flash. It's like, wait, what? But really? But on the other side of that, I just recently read, while I was just doing research, I read the Vendetti, I think, did the Hawkman miniseries. Yeah. I don't give two shits about Hawkman. That book was like, I'm reading this, but it's not going to get any more, I don't think, because it didn't sell well enough, right? So there's that side. And then there's the other side, which is, well, I guess we're just making this decision. And the fans are just like, what's going on? why would you rock a boat that didn't need rocking is basically what the vibe is. So they don't trust, right? They're like, here's this new guy. He has this opinion about this character I like. He's definitely going to come in and start punking out my character, at the very least making him look bad, you know, and at the worst, murder him, you know? And I'm like, I kind of get the vibe, but please give me the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, I'm not here to kill your favorite. I'm not here to kill your darlings, right? If someone dies, it'll be somebody like Nort. I mean, they killed Kilowog, which I was like, during Rebirth or whatever, Emerald Twilight.
Yeah,
they straight up killed Kilowog. And I was like,
I know, that was brutal. I love Kilowog too.
Right, but if they can go that far with Kilowog, who I'm personally not going to kill, mostly probably, then that level is where we're at for who can die. None of the big Earth Lanterns can be killed from my point of view. They can be hurt, they can be meaningfully altered, but they can't be just like, sorry about it, they're dead. Right? The second issue covers out and it says funeral for a Guardian. How many Guardians even have names? Ganthet, everyone knows Ganthet. Name me some other Guardians. Off the top.
I forgot the one with the L.
Okay, this is my point.
Yeah, I don't know. Right.
Okay. This is exactly the point. So if I kill some random Guardian, it's not the same thing as if I killed Ganthet. It's Infinite Frontier. I didn't do that. Somebody else killed Ganthet. But you know what I mean? So I feel like I can't ask for it. I don't want it in that sense, benefit of the doubt. But I feel like when you open up Green Lantern, #1, the Infinite Frontier story should tell you a little bit about, like, this is how I'm writing this book, right? This is a Green Lantern story about a bunch of Green Lanterns. It's just maybe not the ones that usually get the focus.
I mean, you sold me on the Infinite Frontier story. I liked the future state, but when I read the Infinite Frontier, I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm down. I can't wait, because I love John Stewart too. I would put him above Hal Jordan. So, I mean, I grew up with Kyle, right? Because like I started reading Green Lantern, I think 51 was with the new costume. So that was my first Green Lantern comic. And then I didn't really care when they brought him back. I liked Jeff Johns' run. I thought it was a good run. Don't get me wrong. Like, it is one of the best DC runs in comics. But like, I also had John Stewart more in my life. All of Justice League, the whole entire animated series. He's a more interesting character. He has more depth to him. Like, I'm not trying to bash Hal, but what I'm saying is I'm very excited John Stewart's getting more of the shine again. I'm excited for all the other Lanterns.
That's all it is. That's really all it is.
Yeah. And I know that, like, we can't really talk much more about in terms of story, but I hope everybody listening and watching, like, you pick up this book, and we're definitely chatting after issue 4.
It's going to be cosmic.
Okay.
It's definitely going to be cosmic. We should definitely talk after issue 4. I guarantee you at the end of issue 2, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, issue 1's going to have a great ending, but issue 2, you're going to be like, oh, shit. Okay. Like, what the fuck? Right? It's a Green Lantern book. It's cosmic. It is, big things are happening in the cosmos, in the multiverse, in the omniverse. Big things are happening, not just Green Lantern related, like huge freaking things. Death Metal, whether you liked it or not, it's the equivalent of Crisis on Infinite Earth in reverse, right?
Yeah.
They basically just erased the crisis. Like that's over. All the ripple effect of that is done as of the end of Death Metal, right? So, well, a lot changed, right? We had New 52, we had Rebirth, right? We had the little offshoot DCU. We had all these various things happen. And apparently all that's in. Everything that happened is now in. Yeah. And I'm like, and they're saying everyone remembers everything? I'm like, they remember being dead? Like, what does it mean? Like, they're like, so that's cool. Up to you. That's up to each creator to see what lands, basically. From the point of view of person writing it, what that means to me is, if everything's in, that means I can pick and choose what matters to me as a writer and ignore anything that I don't like. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I don't have to care about it in this story. So if everyone's doing that, you're going to get a very subtle reshape, not a true reboot, but a reshape, depending on each creator. I think that's kind of fun.
Oh,
right.
It's a very exciting. It's a very exciting time to be a DC fan. I was getting really bored, I'll be honest with you, with the majority of what DC was doing prior to Future State. I was very skeptical about Future State. I wasn't going to read every book. After week 1, my buddy was, he was like, we both decided, why don't we just read every book and talk about it every week? And we'll do a recap of each week of Future State and talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. And overall, I think it was really, a lot of cool concepts. It introduced me to a bunch of new writers that I didn't know. Artists, for the most part, I think I already knew most of the artists, but to see this fresh new talent coming into DC, like yourself, it's exciting. We need new blood at DC. We need new blood at Marvel, because otherwise we're getting the same shit over and over again.
That's what I said. And by the way, I haven't paid attention to Swamp Thing in 15 years. Round B knocked that shit out of the park.
Oh, fuck, that shit was dope. Yeah.
Like, I'm back on the Swamp Thing team off of that one story.
Yeah.
The first one, right? I was like, wait, what? I'm down, right? Yeah. That's a guy who I didn't know his work. Like, other people who are deep in this now knew him, I guess. I was like, okay, take me where you want to go. I'm with you. Let's go.
Oh, dude, yeah. I picked up 2 of his books. Graffiti's Wall I read. Amazing. Then I picked up Blue and Green. I'm about to read that soon. I subbed to his other books. I was like, this fool's killing it right now.
This guy's awesome. He's awesome. Yeah. What else did I really like? I didn't think I was going to like the Harley Quinn book. She's not my favorite character. Not a big fan of. I'm absolutely not a Batman fan. I'm a Nightwing fan, but not a Batman fan. Yes, I like the Dark Detective.
Love Nightwing.
I like the Dark Detective. I like Nightwing was dope. Nightwing was dope. Yeah. But I expected dopeness from Nightwing. It's like, I'll find you if you mess up my boy. But I also like the next Batman. I like that. I really liked almost all of the stuff that came out, and the stuff I didn't like was more like, well, this isn't for me. It's not that it's bad. It's just, that's not for me. It's not my character that I care about.
I can name one book that I can name one book that was bad, but I won't do it.
Uh-oh.
I'll do it off camera. I'll do it after we're done recording.
I have an opinion.
No.
I don't have an opinion.
I'll do. I got somebody else to admit that it was shitty too. So another writer. So, and I won't say who it was, but they admitted as well. And I think you would probably agree. It just was not a good book.
Well, I didn't read all of them. There were some that I didn't read.
Okay.
Because they're not my guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's just some characters that, like the Superman stuff, for the most part, like the World thing.
Worlds of War. That was dope,
Worlds of War. I'm sure it was. I just didn't care. So I have no opinion because I didn't read it. The Titans book, didn't read it. I know people are really mad at the Legion book. People were mad at that Legion book.
I mean, that's not the book I was talking about, but that's one of the books where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bash it. It's not for me. This isn't the Legion I want to read. You know what I mean? It's not the Legion to me. It just wasn't. So
I was just like, I read it because people were so mad at it. I was like, how could you really? I read it. I was like, okay. I didn't get why everyone was so mad. It wasn't my favorite of the Future State books, but by no means was it like,
it wasn't trash.
Kill your parents or something.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't trash. It just like, to me, it's like, I didn't really I don't know. I had high expectations for the Legion of Superheroes book, and it didn't really meet my expectations. And I like Bendis, but Ryan Sook's art, phenomenal. So I just I couldn't get into it, and I stopped reading it, and I read the Future State, and I'm like, what am I reading right now? I was like looking around, I'm like, do I do this? Am I going to do this a second time to myself? I did it on the first month, but do I want to do it twice? Not really. So I kind of I glanced at it, I'm just full disclosure, dude. I don't care. I'll be honest, So
look, the truth is this, and anyone who tells you anything other than this is a fucking liar. This is the job we signed up for, right? The creators. You're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to say it. You're allowed to get on your channel and fuck shit as much as you fucking want about any book you read. And you're like, nope, sorry, not for me. Here's why this is bullshit. That's the deal. Like, anybody who's whining about that needs to get out of the freaking game. Okay? I am not whining about it. I have not backed off my position about how from fan to writer,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm just saying, as a writer, I can't exercise that feeling about this character because that's not my job. Yeah. But the debate, I'll have it if you want, and I'll say all the stuff. You can quote me and say all these mean things. But the bottom line is, everyone who makes any art, commercial art specifically, if you don't get that this is the deal, you need to reevaluate your career choice, right? If my book doesn't sell, as Mosaic did not sell, what happens? It gets canceled and I get shown the door. You think I don't know that? Like, of course I know that. But on you guys' side, on the response side, I don't know why you should be made to apologize for not liking something. You're not required to like everything, right? If you don't like it, say so. Feel freaking free to say so. There's no shame in it. Not everything's for everybody. And frankly, not everybody's good. There are artists who, if they're on a book, I don't care who's writing it. Like, you don't want my money because I'm not buying that book, right? I don't know how they got this job. How are you working at Marvel? You specifically. Yes, you. I'm talking to you, right? Yeah. Like, but that's the fun of being a fan, and it is the horror of being a creator, is we'll never know until it comes out, right? I am proud of my work. I always do my best, no matter whether it's paying me $300 or $10,000. If I say I'm going to do it, I bring the A game. That doesn't mean the A game is going to satisfy. It just means I know I did my utmost. So if a bunch of people read Green Lantern 1 and go, what the fuck? They're allowed to. They're allowed to. Like, everyone's opinion about art is correct. You go to the Louvre, you see the Mona Lisa, and all these people are crying and having a baby about it. And you're like, I don't know. I don't get it. I think this is ass. You're right. You're not wrong. They can't, how dare you? What? That's Da Vinci. Like, dude, fuck Da Vinci. That shit is, that's just ass. I'm sorry. I don't know why you're all losing your mind. This is a poorly painted picture of, is it even a woman? You claim it's a woman. I don't know. Right? That person who says all that, they're not an idiot. They're not ignorant. They just didn't like the art, and they're right. Just like the person who loves it and wants to steal it and hang it in the basement. That person loves it that much is also right. That's how art works. It's not an engine where it either works or it doesn't, right? It's not a car either drives or it doesn't. Everyone's impression is equal to everyone else's impression. That's it. Yep. So creators who can't handle that shouldn't be in the game. Critics or fans or whatever they want to call themselves need to understand that it also doesn't matter. I'm not like this. I wasn't like this when I was just arguing in comic book shops. We used to have so much fun arguing in comic book shops, and nobody ever got mad. Like, we would argue, pounding the thing, and, God damn it, blah, 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 blah. But nobody wanted to hurt anyone about it. Everyone was arguing, yelling with a smile on their face, right? Yeah. Now I hear all these people going, well, what about the fans? And I'm like, well, who are the fans? Who are the fans? Like, there's a contingent over here that wants only Poison Ivy and Harley to, basically, they would be happy with a book where all they did was, she grows plants, Harley tells silly jokes, and they have sex. That would be the book. There's a whole bunch of people who would be buying the hell out of that book, right? Are they the fans? If they're not, why not? Right? There's a whole bunch of people who would like, there are people behind me right now. They're like, hey, can you punk out Hal Jordan? I'm like, no, why would I do that? Like, well, you said this. I'm like, yeah, I don't like Hal. So you're going to do this. I'm like, no. These are people who want me to, not people who are arguing against it, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not here for that. I'm here for this, right? But we're the fans. We're telling you, we've been waiting so long for finally. And I'm like, how are you the fans? Who are the fans? Right. I can always find some group in the fandom that says whatever I want them to say. Like, I will find a group of people that agree that my work is the greatest thing that's ever hit comics. I'll find you a group of people who go, why is this motherfucker getting the right comics? Who's right? Both of them. Right.
That's true. Right. Yeah, art is it's opinion. And everybody likes what they like. And everybody has the right to dislike something if they dislike it. And I think there's just a certain point where you don't have to and that's where I try to tread the line. Like, I'm not going to bash I don't want to bash a creator. You know what I mean? Like either because not because like, oh, I'm worried what they might think, but like I tried to like say it to the point where like, you know what, I fucking did not like the book, but you know what, there could be 100, 200, 300 people that did like it, you know, and it's just
exactly that. Exactly.
Everybody likes what they like.
Friend, if you follow my Twitter ever, you'll see at least probably once a year, me and the regulars will get into a fight about Man of Steel. A bunch of my friends love Man of Steel. I think that was a bag of shit. And I'm not shy about it, never going to be shy about it. I have a whole bunch of good reasons for why.
We just had a conversation at the shop about it the other day. So
right. But here's the thing that people don't want to get. All the people who hate the Snyder Cut, of which I am one, they don't understand that millions of people like that movie. Okay. Millions more maybe didn't. Okay. Because it certainly didn't compete with the Marvel stuff. Yeah. Right. But millions of people like that movie across the world. Just because we didn't doesn't make them wrong. Mm-hmm. They're not wrong for liking that movie. I just don't. And like what you said, whenever I'm expressing these opinions, I'm saying what I think. I'm not trying to convince you to join me on my side. You know, now you must wear the banner of anti-Snyderism. Like, I don't give a fuck. Don't like your movie. Like, enjoy your freaking movie. Like, just let me enjoy my movie or not. Mm-hmm. So
I agree.
I watched you guys do your thing, and I was like, I did not know that these channels existed because I have not paid much attention to this kind of fandom, right? I think it's much younger, a younger generational thing than what I grew up with. I didn't use YouTube this way, the way you guys do. I use it for like how to do stuff. Like I'm basically researching shit on YouTube. But the ones that I've gravitated to, your site, Perch, a couple of the other guys, it makes me feel like I'm in a comic book shop. It just makes me feel like the fun part, the way we all used to be when we were in front of each other face to face. Mm-hmm. You know, not everybody agrees all the time. You guys don't always agree about a given book or a given creator. You're not always on the same page about everything, but somehow you manage not to murder each other about it. Like it's amazing to watch you not kill each other every time you discuss.
I mean, my buddy and I have known each other since high school. I mean, I think that's why it's so easy to talk to each other. Like there's stuff that he likes that I don't like. I mean, I've often said that there's a certain book that's out right now that I said shouldn't exist. It shouldn't exist, not on the merits of its quality, but in terms of the character that it is, and because the rights should belong to a certain writer
other person.
That got screwed over. So, you know, like he's reading the book and I'm like, you know what, dude, go. I'm not judging you, but my personal opinion is I don't want to read it because I don't think that it should be there, but I'm not going to shame you for it, you know, but like we try not to like, I'm not going to spend time talking about shit I don't like. Like I'm here to spread the love and passion for comics. Why am I going to take an hour out of my day to have a conversation with something I hate and then spend another 2 hours with it the next day editing it? You know what I mean? So like, no, I'm only here to talk about what I love and that's it. Right, you know what I mean?
Right. Like it's supposed to be fun. Like I always ask people, is this fun? Is this the fun part? When does the fun start?
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's why
I'm
right
like
there
you
with
guys.
You. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We try to like put out good content and try to fairly honestly evaluate what we read, you know, and like we were doing like our format like changes every once in a while, you know, like we were reading like a book a week. Now we're also going to be doing like, we're going to pick weekly books also to talk about because I felt like we were kind of ignoring we would briefly talk about stuff, but now, you know, it's fun to be able to like, especially because I can't see him as much.
Oh, you're not in the same space?
Well, I'm in the Valley. He's in Thousand Oaks. Like, so he's in Ventura County. So it's a little bit further away. I mean, that's not that far, but like we both work 6 days a week. You know, we both work in restaurants and we're both working in comic shops. So like our schedules don't really allow for it, you know, and I'm a dad. Brutal, so like I'm juggling that too, but
it's brutal.
Yeah. You know, like, and that's why I love talking to creators like yourself, you know, like I love sharing information about other creators that people may not have known. Like there's no creator that is too big or too small for me to talk to. You know what I mean? Like I love talking to self-publishing creators that are like indie creators that have never even been in a comic shop, or somebody as big as I mean the biggest person, I don't know, maybe Scott Snyder or Bendis, or I've talked to, you know, like maybe they're kind of, I guess, but we're all people, man. We're all fans. Like, you guys are just as much of fans of comics as I am. So, like, you know what I mean?
Nobody in the game doesn't love it. Like, there's people who I actually dislike because of things that they've said and done. Like, I don't know them personally, but I'm like, oh, damn, that was really fucked up. Why would you be this way? Mm-hmm. But even that person, if they're in comics, they love comics. Like, it's just too hard. It's a hard gig. So if you stay in it for any length of time, you love it. Because you have to, you know. I blow up like webcomic people. Like, I'm like, y'all need to check out this webcomic. I don't know who's going to do it. I have like just under 16,000 people who follow me on Twitter. I'm like, all right, 16,000 people, you need to see this. Now, if only 1,000 of them show up, maybe that's 1,000 more than would have ever seen that book.
Right.
Right. And I'm finding stuff all over the web, ways of making comics that I've never thought of, made by younger people. Like, oh, that's neat, you know, or that's a technique I can acquire, or what a fun story that I'd never heard of and wouldn't have found in a bookstore of any kind, just because I'm randomly wandering around. Like, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. I don't understand hate watching. I don't understand hate reading or hate buying. I'm not spending a dime on something I don't like.
No,
I don't even understand that.
I'll drop a book like A Bad Habit if I don't like it. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my God, God bless you. Yes, yes. Like, with no, it's as if you got hit by a bus in front of me, and I just went to McDonald's and didn't even think about it.
No hesitation. Bye.
Out. You know, and on the creator side, again, if you don't understand that, don't be in this game. You know, that's what the game is. Make fun shit. Hopefully people dig it. If they don't, they move on, and you learn the lesson, make some other shit.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, man.
It's not complicated.
I agree, man. And, you know, I think that's a fucking awesome spot to end on.
Okay.
I can't wait to talk to you again after Green Lantern. I just was so anxious to like pick your brain a little bit. That's why I was like, can we do it before the book drops? I also want to get people aware that aren't necessarily aware that the book is launching next month.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
I mean, some people they don't pay attention to solicits. Like, it blows my mind. They're like, oh, that book's coming out?
Yes.
I'm like, dude, you guys buy comics in a comic shop. Do you not fucking go on the internet? I don't understand. Like, do I have to shop for you too? You can't even research? Come on, dude. You know, so
it's not even hard.
Yeah, it's right there. It's all you have to do is type in DC comics that come out this month. Just fucking look. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to shame anybody. But anyways,
don't shame your customer.
I'm not trying to. I mean, well, yeah, I won't do it. But I just wanted to make people aware. I wanted to pick your brain. I'm looking forward to our next chat after Green Lantern 4.
For sure.
Yeah. And before we get out of here, if you could just really quick throw out your handles on social media, and I'm going to drop all of them down below as well.
Okay. Well, you know what? Just go to geoffreythorne.com. All the links are there. One word.
Okay.
Not Jeff Thorne, Geoffrey Thorne.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes you where you want to go. So cool. That's easy. The other thing is, please, if you guys come to my Twitter, I'm grown, and I talk about grown-up shit just as much as I talk about comics and movies and stuff like that. So if you're a person who gets very amped out about politics, understand I'm grown. So it's going to be grown-up convo about
I like that.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, again, thank you so much for chatting with me today. Expect another. So great. We'll schedule something for after issue 4.
Yes, just hit me. You got the email. Just hit me up. We'll schedule it the same way. You guys are easy because we're on the same coast, so it's way easier for us to sort of navigate. And once we're allowed to interact with people, we might even do a face-to-face. Come by the shop or something.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. All right, cool.
Okay, great.
Well, I look forward to talking to you.